Hello, everyone. Welcome to Odd Shaped Panel, a pop culture call-in discussion show. This is the lovely Kimber Barrett.
Hey, everyone.
And I'm Tom Bennis. Today we're going to be talking about horror, and we're going to talk about your personal relationship with horror. What was the first thing that scared you? What still scares you?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Favorite, like all time? Hard to pick my all-time favorite, but like maybe the original Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. I mean, it's a cliche.
You know, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters.
But
yeah,
it's just it's like a really great starter movie for people into horror. It's not super gory, so if you're not into that, you can still enjoy it.
What attracted you to Michael Myers as a slasher? Why is he your favorite?
He's just I think he's very iconic, very classic. I think they really nailed that scary, faceless fear of just somebody coming after you for no reason.
How do you feel, though, that it's just a bleached James T. Kirk mask?
I'm fine with that.
Does it have any effect?
If he'd have opened his mouth and Shatner's voice came out, that might have been even scarier.
Yeah, also Jamie Lee Curtis in the first Halloween. She's like one of the ultimate scream queens as well. So it's cool to see that performance too.
Absolutely. How do you rank Jamie Lee as opposed to Neve Campbell in the Scream movies?
I always go classic, so definitely I'm more drawn towards Jamie Lee Curtis's performance. I feel like if you didn't have that performance, you wouldn't have the Neve Campbell performance.
It got harder later in the Halloween franchises when Jamie Lee Curtis was doing those yogurt commercials at the same
Right.
time.
A great way to help start the day.
To
You can't take her too seriously.
But
I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Jamie Lee because obviously I love her and I love those movies. I was really impressed by how good of a survivor character Neve Campbell is in those movies, throughout those movies. And I don't know if it's because she came about so much later that she doesn't get brought up in the conversation, but it's for me, she's right up there with Jamie Lee and Ellen Ripley as far as proactive
For sure.
female horror icons.
Especially Ripley. She's one of the ultimate badass characters. There's
Just
nothing
went back and watched Alien on Alien Day.
there's not a damsel in distress bone in her body. She's just pure badass.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't know why studios need to go damsel in distress and feel like that's sexy when Ripley is a badass running around in underwear.
Right.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
Well, even from the very beginning, she was the one with the wherewithal to say, "Don't bring that thing on the ship."
Women's intuition.
Right. Well, even at that early stage, she's asserting herself. She's such a great character. Sam, you're always positioned like hedonism bot whenever I see you.
I apologize for nothing.
Someone's always comfortable in an episode of Odd Shaped Panel. Last episode, it was Steve.
Oh, I'm so comfy.
What's your favorite horror movie, Ashley?
I didn't get into horror films until recently, and so one of my favorites is the Hellraiser series. I remember seeing the box, I think, for Hellraiser 4 when I was in elementary school at the Blockbuster, and just being horrified by that character, oh my god, that is the scariest thing ever. And then watching it for the first time a few years ago, it's this isn't really that scary, it's more just gory.
Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you.
I mean, it would be scary if you were in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yes.
The first two are classic, and 3 and Bloodline are kind of guilty pleasures for me. I know exactly what it is, but I like what it is.
What about you, Sam? What movies do you like? Do you like horror?
Yeah.
He's showing all of his horror movies. Nice.
It's awesome.
I think my answer in our TUFF fan fiction Exorcist is up there.
Definitely a good
I saw
one.
that for the first time in 9th grade.
Watching it with my Roman Catholic grandparents, it was interesting.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I started writing The Exorcist into a musical. Brian brought up one of my favorite movies ever when he did his movie fight, and that's Death Becomes Her.
Where did you put my wife?
She's dead, sir. They took her to the morgue.
The morgue? She'll be furious.
I would kind of consider that in the horror comedy genre, which just so happens to be pretty much my favorite genre in the world. That's stuff like Shaun of the Dead.
And hold it there.
Just get her up.
And what are some of our other favorites?
I would say Ghostbusters is a horror comedy.
Definitely.
Idle Hands.
Oh, out of
yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I remember when that came out.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil is really good as well.
Bubba Hotep is a good
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, I would even consider like Army of Darkness.
Cal brings up a good point. Some movies fell into that genre as they went along, like Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, I know they had that My Buddy doll that looks very similar to Chucky, and people would see that in our neighborhood and like freak out and run the other way. It's like, oh my God, Chucky's coming after us.
My friend had one of those Chucky dolls, and the thing was it had 2 separate battery packs, and so it was like, hey, I want to be your best friend. And so we were tired of it. We took the batteries out, and then we were like watching something else, and we hear, hey, I want to be your best friend, and we were freaked out. But it had a secondary battery pack. It was like a gag
Nice.
Chucky doll. Cal, we're talking about horror. You brought up a bunch of stuff in the chat.
I was just saying, Cabin in the Woods is like, every movie, teens go and have sex in the woods and drink, and they die to like some like axe wielding or machete wielding person. That's what I thought going into the movie that's gonna happen. But then also, like, you see all this like background story with it. I thought it was clever. Like, it's like a twist on a horror movie.
We should split up.
Yeah, good idea.
Really clever.
I did not expect that.
The mermaid too. Like he wants the mermaid or the merman. They've actually put out some what I've heard are really good like gothic romancy horrors recently. Favorites is Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, Gerando. There's still life in the old lady yet.
Is a really good example of that type of genre. With The Witch and Crimson Peak.
I saw
and those they actually didn't do very well, but I feel like a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were misadvertised as like horror. Did you guys see those movies? What do you think about them?
I thought it was pretty. It was a decent movie. Like, I think Tom Hiddleston was in it, right? They did a good job of acting. It was really interesting. Like, little twists.
And the monsters I've seen are really unique and beautiful to me. Like, scary and beautiful.
It's more of like one of those like twist movies where you think what you think is happening, but it's not. Like, I thought it was supposed to be like the Fall of the House of Usher.
You do not, sir. The House of Usher seems to you then normal.
Gothic romance horror kind of genre thing.
How did you like Babadook?
No, I haven't seen Babadook yet. I've heard
Really?
good things.
It's an Australian film. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's why I just assumed because I'm American
How
that
dare
I've
you.
seen all
How dare
Australian
you.
films.
Well, that one was actually really cool visually. It had a lot of interesting stuff. I could have done with a little bit more of a death toll personally. That's a cool looking monster. That's a menacing book. It made books creepy. I liked Babadook a lot.
You guys see It Follows? Because a lot of people have been talking about that.
I did not.
Like, whenever people have sex, like an allusion to an STD.
Like a sexually transmitted demon is what you're saying?
His penis got diseases from a Shumash tribe.
Do you want to plug?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, yeah. I do a show with Joel and Tom's on it and Kimber's on it like every week. Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's about Game of Thrones. We recap a previous episode of Game of Thrones the day before the next episode airs.
Oh, look at that. Me and Kimber will be guest hosting the next 2 weeks because Cal will be out of town.
Yeah, I'm heading on a cruise and shit.
Talking about Game of Thrones.
So in the 3rd grade, my friend Josh's mom, she was not the best mom. Like, she didn't really like pay too much attention, would let us watch all sorts of bad stuff. So like, okay, let's watch Candyman. And she knew it was a horror movie. It wasn't like, oh, Candyman, maybe it's like a magical like story. So she knew what we were watching. She was watching it with us. And I just remember being so horrified by like all of the gore and scary stuff. And, you know, the whole, like, if you say his name 3 times, he's going to come into your bathroom and kill you. We get to the park, we look across the street, and there's this guy walking a pit bull in a trench coat. And so in our little 3rd grade minds, like, that was Candyman right there. We're like, oh my God, run for your life. So like I ran for like my house. They ran back to their house.
The movie 7 with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, that one had some death scenes that were definitely making a statement for sure.
Unless
with all the...
No, that was like the scariest,
Yeah.
terrifying one. He walks in and he has all the like little air fresheners hanging. Thing is like a better jump scare than that moment. Like, what's your guys' favorite horror movie based on a book?
The one I saw a few years ago, Reanimator, which is based off of a H.P. Lovecraft story.
You killed him. No, I did not.
I gave him life.
I heard about that movie through one of my friends that is like in love with the main actor. It's kind of campy, but I just really enjoy that story and how disturbed the main character is, and just kind of the different elements that are taking place in that story. It's one that I like to rewatch occasionally.
I've watched Reanimator 100 times. I love to put it on the background while I tattoo. And I love Lovecraft as well. And I do think Herbert West is one of the best characters in a horror movie ever. And that guy gives an amazing performance. Neon green serum. It's super... I want to not say iconic, but it's iconic. Yeah, Tom's got his Necronomicon here. Lovecraft.
Nice.
Horror movies that scare me the most are ones that could actually like happen. That's why I think Scream like resonates. I mean, because there's some twisted ass people out there. Nightmare on Elm Street, that stuff. They're decent movies. I'm not gonna, but that stuff doesn't really scare me. So I don't like when the movies just try to scare you by popping something out at you. Like I don't.
Horror movies are fun. I think if they aren't fun, then you're just kind of sick. So I appreciate the fun element of horror movies. We went and saw Krampus. That was a good time. We had a blast with that movie. It was surprisingly good.
Practical effects in that movie alone, like, are
the
worth
cast
it.
was awesome. It was like equally funny and scary. It wasn't too scary for children to watch, which I also think is a bonus.
Austin, what do you think the most decent recent horror flick is?
The Boy is
really
hands down the best horror movie I've seen in a while.
This is our son.
And whoever was in here earlier, I didn't get his name. He was talking about It Follows. I have no words for that movie. How bad that movie is. I mean, maybe some people like it. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I just couldn't do it.
I just watched The Boy last night. I heavily agree on The Boy. The Boy, The Forest, and The Witch are the last three recent ones I've watched, and all of them. It Follows was such a disappointing movie to me. I love The Boy, though. That was such a good one. Yeah, the haunted house, the whole, like, I love those haunted house movies. Add a doll into it. It's perfect. Yeah, I just had to come back you up with The Boy. If I really want to get scary, I'll watch, like, a Rob Zombie, like House of a Thousand Corpses. I don't really like that, though. Like, that's too much for me, man. I don't know. Scarier with the human centipede. That's just, what the fuck happened there?
Do you guys have like a favorite horror director or a favorite horror actor? Obviously, I've been outspoken about how I love Vincent Price. He made over 100 movies, and I think he was a genius in all of them.
Oh, well, some people learn faster than others.
Well, Guillermo del Toro, for sure. I always feel like I'm obligated to check anything out that he puts out, because even though I haven't seen Crimson Peak.
Yeah, I want to talk about Clive Barker. Clive Barker wrote one of my favorite, creepiest children's books ever, too. It's called The Thief of Always. It's amazing. It's kind of like Coraline, but a million times more upsetting. That's genius. I love Clive Barker.
I definitely consider Attack on Titan a horror anime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about giant monsters, there's Titans running around with no junk for no reason. It's
yeah, and the weirdest looks on their face. The weirdest looks on their face.
You're like, oh, that's kind of funny, but it's terrifying because it's like a wide, heavy grin. And you kind of reminded me of it because your head came in the frame that way, but the one where the wall is broken away, and then you just have like the eyes like, hey.
That dead look in their eyes like, oh, it's been a long day. I'm just gonna eat you.
The most terrifying thing is, like, they don't even need to eat you to live.
Nope.
Like, they just do it.
They eat until their stomach's full and they vomit up a little crushed ball of people.
True.
Favorite director or writer or actor for horror movies?
Barker is one of my favorite directors. But I mean, we grew up with the '80s caliber of like horror movies, so it's all like Freddy Krueger and some of the later Jasons. And
it's crazy looking back to see how much of a phenomenon Freddy Krueger became. He was on talk shows, like it was crazy. Well, they touched on that on A New Nightmare.
20 years later, he's in 30 years later or something, he's in freaking Mortal Kombat.
I'm trying to think of suspense for me. Again, like Silence of the Lambs. See, I want to keep going back to The Shining for all of these different examples because The Shining has all of these different examples.
Yeah, The Shining.
Yes.
Another thing that's interesting with Poltergeist, and actually has happened with like quite a few horror movies, The Exorcist included, is the weird stuff surrounding the making of those films.
All the skeletons were real.
Yeah, they had a lot of weird stuff connected to the making of those movies. Even the little girl who was in Poltergeist died and stuff. Like. The Exorcist as well, if you do your research, there's like tons of weird stuff connected. Do you think like it translates onto film when you watch it? Like maybe they were really scared when they were making it?
I think it kind of gives like the movie like a different feel.
It can end up adding to the mystique of the movie too, to have all these rumors associated with the making of it. What's the best Hitchcock movie?
I really like The Birds.
You like The Birds?
That's a good one.
Yeah, Jack just wrote in The Birds as well. He's like, yes! Yeah, my mom is actually really terrified of the birds. She's like scared of birds in real life, and Hitchcock is.
Don't ever move to our town. We're a bird sanctuary, like on every power line, and everything is tons and tons of birds.
Sam in Australia, he probably deals with some crazy birds.
I was attacked by a magpie when I was a kid. It actually knocked me off my bike.
I want to call a truce! I call a truce, Brice! Don't take my... I'm pleading with you! God damn you, Brice!
Birds and me, we're not friends.
What is the best death scene in a horror film? But the movie Ghost Ship. When everyone's dancing on the deck and that wire springs loose and it cuts through everyone.
Dead Alive. Didn't somebody get murdered by a lawnmower, like one of the zombies?
Movies that like have skeeved me out and have had permanent effects. I don't know if you've seen the movie Cabin Fever, when everyone gets like that skin disease.
Yeah.
And then there's that. I can't watch like commercials selling Venus razors because of that movie. Like it creeps me out.
You know what gets to me is, we were talking about like thrillers and stuff before, but in Misery, when she hobbles the guy's ankle.
Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Oh!
The ankle just honk sideways. That's one of the ones that gets me every time I watch it.
For me, yeah, anytime that there is a realistic, like some form of realistic injury, like I went and saw Hostel with my friends in the theater, and I think I only actually saw about half of that movie.
Oh,
because
yeah?
it was just super realistic looking.
I don't like torture porn. I like horror movies.
No.
I love gore. Like, I'll sit there and watch Audition, where she like hacks the guy apart with like a piano wire and stuff all day, and puts like the little acupuncture needles in his eyes. And she's so cute.
It's also slightly different when it's the first one to try something like that. It's like how like a lot of people like really enjoy Blair Witch, but the rest of the found footage concept just kind of like falls on deaf ears with a lot of people.
Blair Witch is definitely.
Or what was that movie that came out recently where like the whole movie was basically kind of like social media, where everyone's talking on Skype, and then like the dead person.
Unfriended.
Yeah.
I actually liked that movie. I reckon it was good. I watched it and I thought it was like really clever. And it'd be like if we were doing this and then we just started dying.
What's the best Stephen King movie? We.
That's The Shining.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
We're going.
Shawshank is one of mine.
Yeah, if we're going outside the realm of horror, I mean, even though Green Mile has like a supernatural element to it, those movies are. I mean.
I do want to say that I went to see Stephen King talk a few years ago when he was on tour when Under the Dome came out. And that dude is one of the most down-to-earth, funny, amazing, well-spoken, smart dude. He walked out and he got a standing ovation, and the first thing he said into the microphone was, "Holy shit."
Pay off that bank loan. That's the ticket.
Definitely like a working man's writer.
He was like, people were asking him like, oh, what's it like to be the best writer, blah blah blah, and he's like, I can't like look at myself that way. I can't take that seriously. I think it's wonderful that people think that, but I'm just a guy. He really made an impression on me. Super humble. The first book that I ever read straight like in a day all the way through was actually Carrie by Stephen King. And
oh yeah,
it's like a really quick read, but I was so sucked into that book when I first got my hands on it that I just blasted through the whole thing in like a day.
First one I read was It, and it became very easy to creep people out after that.
Can we go back to Clive Barker for a second? So Clive Barker is responsible for some of the most sleepless nights I've ever had watching horror films. I think the first thing I've ever seen from him is Nightbreed, and that one wasn't necessarily scary, but it's just so interesting. There's so much going on.
You're crazy. No, I'm deaf. Plain and simple.
What's that?
The designs were nightmarish.
Oh yeah, it was so fascinating, and I never seen a movie quite like Nightbreed at the time, so it really just like it struck me.
I got the feeling that Nightbreed was kind of like the concept of like Barker wanting to make a adult version of a Jim Henson movie where like monsters are just regular people too.
It would be great for them to like either remake or go back to that universe. Like I would love to see with modern technology and just I don't want CG, like I want modern makeup technology. Hellraiser was the second Clive Barker I was introduced to, and I was introduced to both of the first and the second one. And that again is like such a vivid universe. And I was afraid of Rubik's Cube for a while because, like,
what if it's really a Lamont configuration?
Right, yeah, exactly. So Hellraiser really did. But then when Candyman came out, Candyman changed everything for me because it was there was something so real compared to Nightbreed and Hellraiser are very effects driven. Candyman, I mean, everybody's real. Candyman looks like a person. The girl is just a human. So everybody is normal. And the music in Candyman is so good. The incidental music, the score carries that film and elevates it to a new level.
Those movies made an impression and resonated with a lot of people because we keep getting brought back to Hellraiser and Candyman.
People underneath the stairs.
What goes on under the stairs is a nightmare.
We had these stairs that would go down to my basement. I lived with my grandparents. That had a gap like this, but it always looked like enough for a hand to come out. And I would always have to run down the stairs and watch my nose every single step.
Oh my god.
Am I the only one who liked 13 Ghosts? I thought the character design, because they all fit these totems the way they died. So the Jackal, he was Manson, right? Some of them were based off of actual people.
Another horror movie that freaked me out when I saw it as an adult was Cube.
Oh, I love The Cube. The Cube is
it's a great movie. It's just terrifying.
Proof that simplistic horror can do a lot more than special effects horror. Oh, it was so sophisticated it was an indie film, I believe, too.
It was even more terrifying by the fact that technically that is a single set piece that they just did stuff to for every shot and reuse it over and over.
Yeah, it was.
You guys watched the rest of the Cube movies? Because there was Hypercube and Cube Zero.
Yeah,
I saw the second Cube, but no, the first and the second one, but I've never seen any more than that.
Yeah, I actually liked Cube Zero, which was the prequel one. That one was pretty crazy. That's the really weird one.
That's the one with 0 calories.
Another one I really enjoyed that not a lot of people like is Event Horizon.
Yeah, I'm about to bring that up too.
I hate that movie. I really hate that movie.
I love it so much, but I love the concept of terrifying horror in space.
Neil in that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you brought up Sphere, that reminded me of Event Horizon.
I don't know what it is about Event Horizon. Maybe it's Sam Neill in it. There's just
it's also Lawrence Fishburne's in it, and
there's something about that movie that just rubbed me the wrong way when I saw it. I remember leaving the theater going, ugh, I really didn't like it.
I don't know if you're familiar with the setting Warhammer.
Yep, it reminds me so much of the Chaos and
Right?
Immaterium.
We're talking about a lot of classics. What do you guys feel like is the best remake of a horror movie?
The Rob Zombie Halloween remake is not bad.
The first one, right?
The first one. The first
Yeah,
Halloween
a
remake
lot of
that
his
Zombie did.
a lot of his horror movies are actually really good.
The Jeff Goldblum version of The Fly, I think that's probably one of the best contenders for a really good remake.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good remake.
A family of 3 joined together in one body.
Fantastic practical effects in that movie.
Body horror, like in the
Yes.
vein of like The Thing and stuff.
Which I was going to bring up the thing as well. We saw something on it not too long ago about how they had to build the autopsy scene where the body like pops open and it's the mouth and everything, and it's the way they talked about how they built that was just terrifying.
That's one of I think the coolest special effects too. I'm a big fan of like the practical effects. Anything that's that style. When they put out the last movie in the Cornetto trilogy, The World's End, and it kind of had like a
funny. I love that movie.
You need to explain this right now.
That's like my favorite style of like sci-fi horror, so I was really glad that that's the approach that they went with it. Like you don't know which one is one of them type thing.
Yeah.
It's like a really fun thing to do.
There's no way around it. Zombie movie.
There hasn't been a lot of really good like horror movies lately.
Except for The Boy. I've heard that's excellent,
Well,
right, Austin?
yeah. But
No, that one sucks.
I think that George Romero did the best zombie movies, period.
Found footage movie, Diary of the Dead, was really good.
That is a good found footage movie, actually. Kind of like originated the genre and did continue to do it best.
See, it wants me. It wants food, but it has no stomach.
So
I did like, though, Return of the
Return
Living
of the
Dead.
Living Dead.
I really enjoyed the campiness of those movies. Some of them, they were really dark. I think it was Return 3, where it had a girlfriend who died in that... It was weird because she died in a motorcycle accident, and it was the summer I saw it was the same summer that Pearl Jam song came out.
The screaming tires, the busting bars.
So I remember it very well. And, like, it was cool because she had to do, like, self-mutilation in order to fight off hunger. And I thought that was an interesting twist.
I had a really good time with the remake of Dawn of the Dead, the one that came out, like, I was it Ving Rhames and stuff?
The only good horror movie recently, the one that I enjoyed so much was It Follows. I saw it like 3 times in the theater. I really like that movie.
What about was it The Darkness, the one coming out with Kevin Bacon?
That looks interesting, that one.
Okay, well, best Kevin Bacon horror movie is Stir of Echoes, but I'm interested about yours.
These things make me kind of nervous. And this will make you really nervous. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't do that! Don't do that!
Well, I was going to say the best Kevin Bacon movie was horror movie is Hollow Man. So.
Oh, where he's
The Invisible Rapist?
Yeah.
Well, because he's such a terrible bastard in that one, and it's like this is what having that ability would do to you.
Ladies, please. This is science.
Yeah, Universal was able to do The Invisible Man fine. Thank you, everyone, for joining Odd Shaped Panel. It was great talking about horror with you guys this week. We officially got our first episode up on the TUFF channel on YouTube. That's TUFF, the official. I do that every time. That's TUFF, the unofficial fan fights. We're also attached to that channel. And at Twitter, there is now an account that you can tweet called @TuffChannel. Let us know what you think about this show. Be nice. And tell us what you think about movie fights. We should be doing a bunch of them. Championships coming up. It's going to be a good one. So let's say goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.